When my phone buzzed that morning, I almost didn't check it. I was already running late for work, half a cup of cold coffee on the counter, and a dozen thoughts swirling in my head. Bills, errands, the silent distance that had grown between me and my husband over the last few months. Then I saw the message. It was from our driver, Carl. He'd just dropped my husband, Ethan, at the airport for what he'd called a 3-day business trip to Chicago. Carl's text was short and polite, but attached was a photo. In it, Ethan stood by the boarding gate, rolling his suitcase, smiling. Beside him was a woman, laughing, her hand on his arm. My heart stopped when I zoomed in. It was my sister, Lily. For a moment I couldn't move. My throat tightened and the world around me blurred. My sister, the one who'd held my hand through every fight, the one who'd cried with me when Ethan and I almost separated last year. I stared at the picture, my hand shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. The timestamp was clear, 8:12 a.m. That was 15 minutes ago. Carl must have sensed something because another message came right after. Sorry if I overstepped, ma'am. Just thought you should know. They seemed close. Close. That word felt like a knife. I didn't reply. I couldn't. My brain was already spinning. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe she was going on her own trip. Maybe they'd just crossed paths. But then I remembered last week when Lily had canceled dinner saying she wasn't feeling up to it. I remembered Ethan deleting texts faster than I could read them. A hot wave of nausea rolled through me. I sat on the couch, still in my robe, the morning light cutting through the blinds like accusation lines. My body was frozen, but my mind started moving fast. If they were lying to me, I wasn't going to scream or cry. Not yet. I was going to find out the truth. And this time, I wasn't giving them the chance to hide it. I picked up my phone, opened my laptop, and started searching flight numbers. They thought they were leaving me behind, but I was already planning to follow. By noon, my nerves were humming like a live wire. I'd called in sick to work, packed a small carry-on, and booked a seat on the same flight to Chicago, 2 rows behind them, the last ticket left. It felt like fate was daring me. At the airport, I wore sunglasses and a hoodie pulled low, ridiculous maybe, but I couldn't risk either of them spotting me. Every sound seemed too loud. Rolling suitcases, intercom announcements, the clack of heels on tile. My pulse kept pace with all of it. When I finally reached the gate, I saw them. Ethan, calm, collected, scrolling through his phone. Lily, laughing, leaning in close, her hand brushing his sleeve in that casual, too familiar way that made my stomach twist. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I didn't need to. His face told the story. Soft eyes, the same expression he used to save for me when we first met. For a second, I thought I might walk right up to them, just end it there, in front of everyone. But something in me, cold, sharp, said wait. Instead, I boarded quietly when our group was called, slipping into my seat near the back. From where I sat, I could see the top of Lily's head a few rows ahead. Ethan leaned toward her, whispering something that made her laugh again. I clenched my hands in my lap until my nails bit into my palms. I wanted to cry, to scream, to run, but all I did was breathe. Slow, even careful breaths. Halfway through the flight, when the lights dimmed, I pulled out my phone and started typing a note. Not a text, a record. Every lie, every date, every quiet night he said he was working late. Every time Lily had told me, you need to trust him more. The truth was unraveling, and I was finally ready to pull the thread. When we landed, I waited until they were almost gone before standing. I followed at a distance through the terminal, watching them walk side by side toward the exit, toward a hotel shuttle waiting outside. The driver loaded their bags, closed the door, and the van pulled away. I whispered to myself, fine, I'll see you there. And as I stepped out into the cold Chicago air, I knew the next time I looked my sister in the eyes, she wouldn't be able to look back. Chicago hit me like a rush of wind and noise. Taxis honking, the smell of roasted peanuts from a nearby cart, people moving fast in every direction. But all I could see was the back of that shuttle disappearing down Michigan Avenue. I grabbed another cab, gave the driver just enough detail. Follow the white hotel van with the Navy logo. My voice didn't even sound like mine. It was lower, steady, almost calm. 10 minutes later, we pulled up in front of the Grand Meridian. Glass walls, red awning, the kind of place Ethan always said was too fancy for business. I watched through the lobby window as they checked in together. She laughed at something the receptionist said. He slid his card across the counter like it was any other day. Then, the part that broke me, his hand went to the small of her back, guiding her toward the elevator. I couldn't breathe. After they disappeared inside, I paid my driver and stepped out. My reflection in the glass doors looked like someone I didn't recognize. Hair loose, face pale, eyes sharp. Inside, the air smelled like citrus and money. I walked straight to the desk, forcing a smile. "Hi, my husband just checked in. Ethan Collins. I'm flying in to surprise him for our anniversary, but my phone died and I'm not sure which room he's in. Could you check for me?" The clerk hesitated, polite but cautious. "I'm sorry, ma'am. I can't give out guest information." "Of course." I nodded quickly, feigning embarrassment. "Oh, of course. Totally understand. Could I at least leave a note for him? Maybe in an envelope?" He smiled. "Of course." While he fetched paper, I glanced toward the key rack behind him. Rows of folders labeled with names. I spotted it instantly. Collins, room 1410. I wrote something simple on the note, my hand trembling slightly. "See you soon. S." He slipped it into an envelope and placed it in the box under Ethan's name. By the time I reached the elevator, I knew what I was going to do. I wasn't storming and screaming. I wasn't begging for an explanation. I'd already lost my voice once for this man. I wouldn't lose it again. Instead, I took the elevator to the 14th floor and walked down the hall. The carpet soft under my shoes. The silence thick. I stopped outside room 1410. Heart thudding so loud I was sure they could hear it. From inside came laughter. Muffled, unmistakable. Then the creak of a bed. My vision blurred for a second. I turned, walked back down the hall, and whispered to myself, "No, not like this." I wasn't here to explode. I was here to end it. And I had one final idea for how to do that. Clean, public, and unforgettable. I spent the rest of that afternoon sitting in a cafe across from the hotel, staring through the window while the city blurred around me. The world kept moving. People laughed, traffic pulsed, life went on. But inside me, everything had gone quiet. Anger burned cold now. Focused. Ethan had mentioned a client dinner when he left home. I scrolled through his work calendar on our shared account. He'd actually marked it. Meridian Hotel. Private dining, 7:30 p.m. So that's where he planned to take her. Not just a secret getaway, but a full performance. Dinner for two under the name of business. I made my own reservation for the same time. Same restaurant, different table. When evening came, I traded my travel clothes for a simple black dress I'd packed out of habit. I brushed my hair, touched up my lipstick, and stared at myself in the mirror. My pulse was steady. My reflection didn't look like a victim anymore. It looked like someone about to reclaim something that had been stolen from her. The restaurant was elegant, soft jazz candles, the hum of quiet conversations. The host smiled as I entered. "Name?" "Sarah Collins," I said calmly. "Table for one." He led me toward a corner booth, and there they were. Ethan, looking too polished, too charming. Lily, laughing softly, her hand resting over his on the white tablecloth. My chest tightened, but I didn't falter. I sat down facing them from across the room, angled so they couldn't see me immediately. The server brought me a glass of wine, and I sipped it, never taking my eyes off them. Halfway through their meal, the waiter approached their table with a small white envelope. "Compliments from the lady at table 6, he said. Lily turned, confused. Ethan followed her gaze and froze when he saw me. For a long second, no one moved, just the flicker of candlelight between us. Then I smiled, calm and deliberate. He opened the envelope. Inside was a printed copy of Carl's photo, the one from the airport. On the back, I'd written, "Next time you lie, make sure the driver isn't watching." Lily's face drained of color. Ethan tried to speak, but no words came out. I raised my glass slightly in a silent toast, then set it down and stood. Every step I took towards the exit felt lighter, freer. Guests turned to look, whispers trailing behind me, but I didn't care. Outside, the cool night air hit my skin, and for the first time since that morning, I could really breathe. I wasn't sure what came next, but I knew it would be mine to decide. Tomorrow I'd call a lawyer. Tonight, I'd sleep better than I had in years. Because sometimes, revenge isn't shouting. It's walking away while they're still trying to find their excuses. The next morning, sunlight poured through the hotel blinds of the room I'd rented across the street. I hadn't slept much, but for the first time in months, the weight on my chest felt different, lighter, clean. My phone buzzed, 23 missed calls, 12 texts, all from Ethan. The last one read, "Sarah, please, it's not what it looks like." I almost laughed. The oldest lie in the book, and he was still reading from it. I placed the phone face down on the nightstand and took a long breath, letting the quiet fill the room. No shouting, no begging, no guilt, just silence. A knock at the door startled me. For a second I froze, but when I opened it, it wasn't Ethan. It was Lily. Her hair was a mess, eyes red, the confidence gone. She looked small, broken even. "Sarah, please, can I come in?" Every part of me wanted to slam the door, but I stepped aside. She walked in slowly, twisting her hands. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she said, voice trembling. "It was one night, and then—" "One night?" I interrupted. My tone was even, too calm for her to read. "You flew to Chicago with him. You booked the same hotel. That's not one night, Lily. That's a choice." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I swear, I didn't want to hurt you." I stood still, arms crossed. "Then why didn't you stop?" She didn't answer, just stood there, shaking. I could almost feel her guilt leaking into the room, thick and heavy. "You know what hurts the most?" I said quietly. "You weren't just my sister. You were my best friend. You knew everything about my marriage, my fears, every fight we had. You used that." "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Don't be sorry," I said. "Be gone." Her lips trembled, but she nodded. She knew I meant it. When she left, I locked the door and sat on the edge of the bed. My hands were steady now, my heart calm. I'd imagined this confrontation for hours, the screaming, the tears, but in the end, it didn't need any of that. The truth had already done the damage. That night I walked to the pier and watched the city lights ripple on the water. My reflection shimmered back at me. Tired, yes, but still standing. For the first time, I felt something close to peace. The next step wasn't about them anymore. It was about me. Tomorrow I'd go home, talk to my lawyer, start over, and maybe, just maybe, I'd stop asking why they did it and start asking what I was going to do next. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying what betrayed you. It's rebuilding what they never could. 3 months later, the leaves had turned gold outside my new apartment in Seattle. I'd taken a job at a local design firm, smaller than the one I'd worked at before, but full of people who actually smiled when they walked in every morning. I liked that. It felt honest. My lawyer had finalized the divorce last week. I didn't cry when I signed the papers. I thought I might, but instead I felt something closer to relief, like the air in my lungs finally belonged to me again. Lily had moved out of town. We hadn't spoken since Chicago. Sometimes I thought about her, about both of them, but only briefly, like a scar I'd stopped picking at. I didn't hate her anymore. I just didn't trust her enough to miss her. That evening, I met with my colleague, Rachel, for coffee at a cafe near the water. The kind of place where the smell of cinnamon hung in the air and the sound of seagulls mixed with the soft strum of acoustic guitar. She grinned at me across the table. "You look different," she said. "Lighter." I laughed. "I guess I am." We talked about work, travel, life, everything except the past. Then she asked the one question I'd been avoiding. "Do you ever think about dating again?" I paused, watching the steam rise from my mug. "Maybe someday," I said honestly. "But right now I like waking up without wondering who's lying to me." Rachel smiled knowingly. "That's fair. You've earned your peace." As we walked outside, the sky was streaked with pink and orange, the air cool against my skin. I stopped for a moment, taking it in. The laughter of strangers floated down the street, and for once, I felt like I belonged in the noise. I pulled out my phone, opened a blank note, and typed a single line. I didn't lose them. I just found myself. Then I put the phone away and started walking toward the water. The city lights flickered on, one by one, like the universe was applauding quietly in the background. I wasn't the same woman who had sat crying over a photo in her kitchen that morning months ago. That woman had been broken open. This one had learned how to rebuild. As the wind carried the scent of the ocean past me, I smiled. Not because everything was perfect, but because I finally knew it didn't have to be. Some stories end with betrayal. Mine ended with freedom. And for the first time, I couldn't wait to see what came next. The end.